Hello, good morning, and welcome to the March edition of the Summit School District Spotlight. I'm Kirsten Anderson, and I'm here with our board president, Consuelo Redhorse.
Good morning.
Good morning, nice to see you. And we also have Johanna Kugler here, our board secretary.
Good morning.
We have a couple of exciting updates we're here to give you today, and we're going to start with the launch of our Leadership Summit Academy that launched with our first meeting March 25th, this last Tuesday.
Yeah, it was a really great experience. It was, we had, I don't know, maybe 20-ish attendees, lots of different community members. And Johanna was there. There were a handful of board members there that were able to join. It was a really great experience to listen to lots of different areas, lots of different community members to learn with our community. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree. There was a lot of representation. There was also some conversation about who wasn't there. Like we heard about maybe some student voice that wasn't there for that opportunity. But I'm excited about it. I feel like there was a understanding of what this cohort was going to be going through, and then there was a lot of opportunity for people to give feedback of what they wanted to learn, what they wanted to have brought back at the next sessions, and so I feel like there's a lot of ownership to this, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Very cool. So last Tuesday was the purpose and power of education. And we have about 29 folks that had registered, and a few people had sickness or last minute conflict. So hopefully we'll see even increased attendance at the next one. And like you said, we'll pull in some other opportunity to hear student voice. So it was very cool to see all the board members there interacting with people who are really passionate about knowing more about the school district and really like getting into like the operations and the data and understanding how things work. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the information that we covered or the conversation that we had?
Yeah. So I mean, again, when you're starting a project, you're going to do introductions and have people meet each other. But we did talk about the power of public education. So there was a history of how publication has formed, or how it's formed, where it's gone and transformed over the years. There was a basic understanding of what is happening in Summit School District, and just, I think people starting to open up and ask questions. I think we're going to go a little bit more in depth with our finance and operations in our future and ready learning sessions. But I think this was a really, really great start to understand just even what is public education and the difference between all other types of education and how it's transformed in the United States and Summit County in particular.
Yeah, and it was, I think what was really cool was seeing like Summit by the numbers. So there was a slide, a few slides that told about statistics within our organization, so people would gain a better understanding of who we're serving and what's going on in terms of programming. What I really enjoyed was the last, so it was kind of sectioned into 3 pieces, and the last part was a bit of time to talk with the people who are at your table. And so we're able to brainstorm, looking at those upcoming meetings and seeing what people are interested in learning about. And it really, again, it helped, I think it helped that ownership piece to be able to say, here's what I have questions about. Some people in my group were really already involved with lots of the committees. And so even being involved with the committees doesn't mean that you know everything. And so I'd say even as a board member, we don't know everything either. We see things from a certain position and as parents. And so it was really just neat to see, what people wanted to know, what they thought community members would want to know, and some of those recurring questions that keep coming around.
And I guess I would just add one other piece. So even as a board member, we see a lot of those statistics. We see a lot of those numbers. And even that slide being presented, it was great to have a facilitator there, and we had other people who maybe had pulled those numbers, because even people who are working in the district or parents who are very, very involved, like you said, there were questions. And I think sometimes we put those statistics out and you just go, oh, I'm assuming people understand everything that's there. And it was a great opportunity for people to actually ask follow-up questions and have more conversation about just even the points that were on that slide or the couple of slides with statistics.
Yeah, I learn something new every day. It's
Right.
a very cool place to be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we have April 29th, which will be investing our future, so finances and operations, digging in there. May 13th, we'll talk about student success, how we measure that, how we look at that, and how we're approaching the pathway work across the district. And then what's the long-term goal looking into next year?
I mean, I would think the long-term goal is really to build community engagement. So the idea is that the community members who are part of this cohort are, expected to join all 3 sessions. They filled out an interest form so that the people who are facilitating it can have an idea of what people are interested in, what their perspectives are. And then next year, I think the idea is really just to keep continuing and to have a longer, maybe 8-month, 9-month session for people to really become involved and to build, I would say, to build more community. I think that that's one thing that's really important with the power of public education is it has the abilities to bring people together. And I think ultimately for me, I think that's a really great goal that I see coming out of here. We want to see a lot of engagement. We want to see people from all sorts of different places in the community with different perspectives and different experiences. And so I think it's really just to build engagement and to help build community and support for our schools and knowledge about how people can continue to support it.
Yeah, I agree. And I would also say this is, because it's the first cohort, I think it's also a learning opportunity of how we want to do this and how it should continue to roll out. But I think, yes, the goal is to keep it going. And so is it just 3 sessions? Does it need to be 4 sessions? Does it need to, tackle one other area? I'm not sure, but I think that that's a great thing about having a first cohort to talk through this. The other big part is I think there's going to be more learning that happens when we had to write our homework assignments, which is do something before the next session. In my table, there were definitely people who said, I've never been to a board meeting before or listened to one. And so that person was excited to hear about the next board meeting. Somebody else said, I've only done SAC. I've never listened to DAC before. So they wanted to read those. So I just think that once you're invested and you're starting to learn more in how decisions are made and why they're made and what the data represents, again, it becomes, this is our community district and our community schools. And so how do we support and also, obviously have our opinions, but how do we move the work forward for all of our students?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to bringing information to people as we go through this process and tweak our format. And if anyone out there is interested in joining us at a later date, feel free to reach out to me at communications@summitk12.org, and I will get you information and on the list as we move forward.
Great.
Another really interesting body of work that the board is approaching is IB, and looking at how IB has been rolled out and implemented and utilized across our school district.
Right.
Can you two talk a little bit about what that process has been and how you're thinking about IB and next steps, really?
I'll let you start, Johanna.
Sure. I think I've heard a question a couple of times of why do we have IB? I've heard statements of I moved to this county for IB schools. Mm-hmm. I've heard teachers say I've had a lot of work on my plate, and the work that we're doing is a lot of rigor and asking questions and inquiry-based learning and hands-on learning. And does that match IB? Does it match the graduate profile? I just think there's been so many questions, and I think we are at a point of how much are we buying in? How much is it giving for return on investment? What are we getting out of it? And is it the right fit? And so I think this is just a really great time to really dive deep and be authentic with the conversations. I know we have gone, as board members, we are in the middle of going around schools and visiting and hearing conversations from teachers. I know that conversations have happened at SACs and DACs. I know the staff at Summit School District from central office have been really diving deep and looking at not just the cost, but what do we have that offers here? What can we do really well in the district? Is this, when this was brought in, there was a lot of work towards fidelity, but there's been so many other pieces in here. How does it fit? What is the best fit for our district to move forward? And so it's not saying one is better than the other. It is not saying that we've made decisions yet. It's really taking an authentic look of what is best for our students, what is best for our staff, and what is the identity we want as a district, and what can we do really, really, really well. So
Yeah.
Consuelo, I'm going to have you back us up a little bit because I just realized we're so into these topics and know them so intimately that can you talk just a little bit about the International Baccalaureate program and how that looks at our elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high school, just as to set some a little ground setting.
Right. So lots of times I think when people think of IB, who have been in the district for a long time, they think of what we call the diploma program.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of start there. So IB is actually through all of our schools except for Snowy Peaks. They do things a little bit differently and have their own capstones and their way of learning experiences. But IB actually flows through all of our schools. So the primary years program is at all of our elementaries. I believe it's kindergarten or pre-K through 5th grade. And that kind of the capstone project of that would be the 5th grade exhibition. Students really get a great opportunity to dig into a relevant topic. It's really interdisciplinary. Work taking from all these different subjects, core subjects, and kind of combining them into something that's interesting, that has an effect on the world, and makes things better, really. And so I think that's kind of, in elementary school too, parents may not hear about it as much, but they're learning learner profiles and units of inquiry. And lots of times, say kids and students and families will know, like they'll hear about a unit of inquiry, but they don't know exactly that it's IB.
Right.
And so I think that's part of it is, finding out how we can do better if families know what units of inquiry are, kids know what learner profiles are, but they don't connect that to IB. How can we do better at that, and how can we make it consistent? So that's primary years program. The middle years program is at the middle school through 10th grade. So 6th to 10th grade is a middle years program. Again, all students take part in that, and I would say it's really interdisciplinary. It's a really great way to learn. It's a lot of, I would say, I don't know if hands-on learning is kind of experiential learning is maybe what I'm looking for, but it's just a really great way for kids to learn.
And with our kids being at the middle school right now, or a few of our kids, we see this show up in like the TED Talk and the World Affairs Challenge, where there's sometimes like a presentation component of it, and kids like digging in deeply, right, to that hands-on that you're talking about to like spark that passion.
Yeah, and I think it helps just education become more relevant for our students, so it's not, learning from the book, learning from worksheets, it's really taking what they learn and applying it to their worlds.
Yeah, I would say just as an example of even in an elementary school level, but I've seen it in middle school and even some of the high school work, it's taking information and saying, what do you know, how do you understand it, and how can you prove it? And that would be like a 3. And then to get it for IB would be, okay, now let's ask questions of, okay, now that you know it and you understand it, it's how do you apply it in the real world? What does that look like in the real world? How does that affect you, and how do you affect the real world with this information? And that is taking it into that inquiry-based learning. And so yes, you don't necessarily know for some of those students, some elementary schools do and some don't, but they don't necessarily know right now, I'm working on IB. It's taking that knowledge or some of that rote information or that memorizations or just understanding and taking it further in, asking questions and seeing how you can actually apply it. And so that is really that inquiry-based learning that you're doing. And so it should ebb and flow throughout your entire day. I mean, we would want all of our academics to work that way. It wouldn't work really well in the real world to just say, oh, I know general information and don't know how to apply it. So
So we've gone out and done surveys with families and students and teachers and principals and gotten information. And like we've been talking here, I think what has come across consistently is everyone likes this model and believes that like rigor and inquiry are things that should be very centrally rooted in our processes and the classroom here at Summit School District. And the discussion now is about like, okay, are we consistent with it? How do we apply this very broadly? How do we provide this with fidelity across every single classroom and learning experience? So that's looking at primarily the elementary and the middle school years, whereas like high school is a little bit different. And Consuelo, I know your student is going through this and you have a lot of experience. And this is an area we're not looking at making a lot of changes to. We're actually looking at how to expand that offering.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it gets a little bit more prescriptive, right?
It really does. So the final piece, so we have the primary years and the middle years program. In 11th and 12th grade is the diploma program. So students, it's a really great opportunity here at the high school of all the different things that we have to offer. IB and the DP, so diploma program, the DP track, if you will, is one of those. So students can choose to be full DP and take nothing but DP classes, or they can choose to take kind of a bits and pieces. So they can choose to take some DP classes, they can choose to take some diploma program classes along with concurrent enrollment classes over with Colorado Mountain College. And so they can take, AP classes, and so there's they can take CTE and all of the wonderful offerings that we have. So they can choose really what they want to do. The DP program, I believe, in order to get the credits, well, they take the class, but in order to get the diploma per se, they take tests. Yeah. So right now we're starting to get into this major test period for students, and so it is, kind of I would say a high stakes testing. The students get a ton of information. They, it's really an amazing experience, and it's very, very rigorous. And so what we found at the high school is that there's not very many students that are going full DP. Yeah. And I think some of that is because we offer so many other great opportunities at Summit High School.
We really do.
And what we'd like to do is we'd like to see more kids take advantage of these very rigorous courses that are based in the IB philosophy. So yeah, it's a really great opportunity. And again, just to reiterate, DP is not going away. So what we're looking at is the middle years program, the primary years program, and I would say with whatever, we'll be getting more information at one of our board meetings in April, and we'll be getting more information there, and we won't actually be voting on anything until the following meeting. So what we want to do is give our community members a big opportunity to be able to give feedback and to really provide, not be making decisions right when we're getting the information.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
Yeah, so I would encourage anybody who wants to do public comment, please come out to the next board meeting to go ahead and do that, but also check in with your principals or your teachers and ask those questions. Ask your students about this as well, and you can even reach out. I'm sure Kirsten would provide any of the information that we already have to be able to be informed when making that public comment, to really give us the feedback that we're looking for, so that we can make a decision on this. So, yeah.
Awesome. Please join us. And absolutely the purpose behind this questioning, which I think is great, to say, what are the systems? How are they working? Who are they working for? How do we do it better? Right. So this is really about a continual process of improvement. Right. What other resources do we need so that we have really rigorous learning across our school district? Right. So I think it's really cool questions that are being asked and conversations that are being had.
Yep, I agree.
Well, awesome. So you all are in classrooms, out in the community all the time. And the cool thing about that is you see such cool stuff happening with our kids all the time. Can you talk about a little bit about where you've been lately and what you've been seeing?
Yeah, so I would say as a board, we have, they're called linkages, and basically we call them voice events now because that's a little bit, it's not as weird as linkage. I mean, linkage is kind of a weird word. So we're having staff voice events. And so what we did back in January is we did student voice events, and we visited all schools and talked to kids probably from like 3rd grade through senior year and got their opinions on how they feel a sense of belonging in school. And so what we know as board members is a sense of belonging really helps kids be successful in their professional and academic lives. And it also just helps our environments feel better. So what we have been doing, I'd say over the past month, we have broken into groups of 2. We're visiting each of the schools again and focusing on staff voice events. We're also visiting facilities and transportation in the central office in order to get a whole bunch of different perspectives about how we can make things better and learning environments and teaching environments better for our staff and making sure that we meet the needs of students. So I have been recently at the high school here. I went to Snowy Peaks, and then yesterday I went to facilities. And it was really a great experience. It's really neat to hear from all the different areas and different cultures and age groups to hear what they're experiencing. So that was something that we've been working on. And today, later, I'm heading to Dillon Valley. So it's just a really great experience.
Yeah. We've taken this idea of that we belong, and again, we're looking at if somebody feels belong, they're more likely to challenge themselves. They're going to feel safe in their academic learning. They're going to feel like they can participate, and they feel like their voices are heard in their learning as well. And so, yes, it was really great to do with students, and now to the staff. I have been to Summit Middle School, Breckenridge Elementary, and then yesterday I was at Silverthorne Elementary, and then next week I'm at Central and Transportation. And what's nice is now transitioning to the adults in the building, we're still asking them how they can feel like they belong and listening, but then also what are their perspectives of with working with students. So we're asking the questions as well of like what do they perceive or see of having the children having an experience of feeling like they're being heard, they're being seen, or like and some of these questions have been taken off and staff members, and it's not just teachers and licensed teachers. We've had paras come in, permanent subs come in. I've had counselors. I've had all different groups of people coming in and giving a real perspective of how they feel like students are doing, what are hindrances, barriers, staff, how are they feeling, and what do they need. And so sometimes the conversation comes off, and we're really there to listen. It's our opportunity to not even answer questions. I think there were some definitely times when people weren't sure about some of the information, and there's a little bit of learning, but it's not our time to teach or to answer. It's really a time for us to listen. So it's great. And then we have coming up in May, we will also have our community partners and parents session as well. Believe May 1st.
Yeah, May 1st, yeah.
And where's that going to be?
It's going to be at the Professional Development Building, and it'll be the first part of our school board meeting.
Amazing. So I can't say enough how incredible you all are to be in our schools, talking with people, really hearing those perspectives, and on top of what you do to be prepared for a board meeting and to be here helping share information out. You just inspire me all the time with the level of interaction and commitment that you all have. And I think when you hear that and bring it back, it just makes us so much stronger in our decision making. So thank you for what you guys do.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. It's really cool. I love it. And I've been able to circle back with the principals if they haven't been able to join to share it with them because they're closest to their staff. And so lots of times they'll already know what the concerns are of the staff. And so it's nice to be able to talk through some of the concerns that we hear and say, well, here's what's happening, and I still see that this perspective is here. So it's really been a great experience, a really great learning experience for us.
And I guess that's the one last piece, is there is always a circle back. You know, we hear, but I want people to know that when we're listening, it doesn't just stop there. It helps us in our decision making and feel it connected. A lot of the times, things that are brought to our attention from students, parents, community members, staff is operational. And so we don't have the direct contact to be able to change operations or to influence those operations exactly. But that goes to then also the leadership teams in the schools or Dr. Bird. And then their voice is coming back as a feedback loop to let them know what was heard, what wasn't. So it's pretty exciting to hear and have people have the opportunity to be really open to what they want us to hear.
Yep, very cool.
Yeah.
The last thing that I was hoping to talk about today, there's so much, right?
There's so much. There's so much.
But a big topic that we actually, the board has been considering for over a year and a half, but we started to have some really public conversations earlier in March, and you're going to see in late April or early May, depending on contracts and things like that, is workforce housing and a partnership with Breckenridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you guys talk about like how that all came about and then where you are in the process today?
Sure. I guess I can start from the very, very, very basics of, I want to say a year and a half to 2 years ago, there were surveys done about why staff members were leaving, why staff members didn't take a job when it was offered, just a lot of questionings. And the number one thing that popped up was, I can't afford to live here. I can't buy a house. I can't, once I get married or have children, I just can't stay. Or there's so many of us in a house and we're renting, and it just became an apparent issue. Yes, pay is always going to be an issue. Culture is an issue. There's always things that are there, but housing was this major red flag that we needed to be looking at. And so there were surveys done that went out to just staff. There was surveys of people who left the district to find out why. And it started this work of trying to figure out what it was that staff wanted. Was it really to buy houses? Was it to rent homes? Did you need it just in the very beginning? What was your AMI that you could work with? How much could you afford? All of those pieces. And so I would say then after about a year and a half ago, we went the district went around and really brought people in outside to really figure out our priorities based on the information that was presented of what we needed and how many rental units we needed, how many homes for purchase we would need, how, like, the very, very really in the thick of it data for us to start to make some plans. And then it went out to the communities, and each community was able to see ideas and give input and what that could look like. And then it just has been rolling from there of what opportunities are actually available, what could we as a district actually do. But it had to be at the forefront.
Yeah.
We had to start talking about it because we can't recruit and retain some of the best and most qualified people if they don't have a place to live. And we heard that pretty loud and clear. And I don't know if you want to add to.
Yeah, so I would say with the town of Breckenridge specifically, we kind of had the, as you mentioned, the public-facing portion has just been recently. But we've actually been working on this for a while. So we do have executive sessions, and executive sessions are, they're kind of closed-door meetings that we're allowed to have under statute. And some of it's looking at land use and being able to consult with attorneys to make sure that we're making the right choices there, looking at negotiations per se. And, as part of this work with Breckenridge, we knew that we wanted to have a collaborative solution to deal with affordable housing. You can't have cost-burdened educators and staff. Many of our, I would say that was the biggest piece, was the cost-burdened part of it. And so what we needed to do was make sure that there's this ongoing benefit to provide for our teachers and our staff members, which ultimately leads to to better student outcomes. And so, we wanted to make sure, just that we have availability. So recently, as Kristen mentioned, we have given the go-ahead during our last conversation. The town of Breck, basically, we were working with them to do a land swap. So there's this piece of land, it's a 10-piece parcel near Upper Blue, and it's called the McCain parcel. And what it would do is it would exchange, the school district would give up, exchange that 10 acres of land in return for 35 units that are being, that are being built really by the town of Breckenridge. And so we would give the land, we would get 35 units that would be for sale to staff. And that 35 units wouldn't just be a one-time, you're getting 35 units, or it wouldn't be, in a certain address, number 123 on, Summit Drive. It is going to be a deed restricted, so there will be in perpetuity 35 units available for Summit School District staff with a first right of refusal. So the idea is to have this ability to keep on providing for our staff forever. So it's a really exciting opportunity.
Yeah, and again, it comes back to this partnership as well, because the town of Breckenridge would be overseeing the building of this. They would be overseeing the first right of refusals. They would be going through all of this process, and then there's also the idea that they can sell some of these between 80 and 150% of the AMI, which is not something you can do on our regular market here, which is a wonderful experience, and there's some subsidies that go along with that as well. So it's just a great partnership that hopefully can help the town of Breck, but for us, more importantly, can help us recruit and retain incredible staff that can stay here and afford to live here.
Yeah. Our housing master plan can be found on the website, summitk12.org, on the facilities page. So that's a great place to see some of the data about the need. Because it really is, there's multiple levels of need across our community, right? Starting from the rental to home ownership to upgrading, you're ready to move out of that one-bedroom condo because you are starting a family, so you need more space. So there's multiple levels, multiple needs, and multiple solutions that have been considered. And one of them we saw in the bond that was voted down was that we would build rental housing on some of our own property. And we really heard from the community and staff that, hey, I feel uncomfortable about my employer being my landlord as well. So, Breckenridge has been in the housing business for so long. They have these really great locals communities like Wellington, runway is envisioned to be, right, like disperse multiple types of housing for people in our community, and they really recognized the strength of educators in our community, right? And so it's this cool partnership that brings us together, and it allows us to trade this land that I think a lot of people, one of the questions that we get a lot is hey, why don't you, that land is so beautiful where we live, it's worth so much, why don't you sell that and do something on your own? So maybe talk a little bit about what we saw from the appraisal or in the background of that.
Right, so we had a few appraisals done because we wanted to make sure that we were doing the right thing. I think it came in about 1.1 million. And some of it is that because it's what's the word, tracked? It's zoned for government use. And so, working with the town of Breck, it was, it's not going to be used for regular market development. And so, so that limits the amount that we would be able to get from it. Also, I think the one-time, $1 million seems like a lot, but but with the size of our budget, it really doesn't go very far. Our budget is about 90% salary and benefits, and even if this could do a one-time boost, it would be a one-time boost, because anytime, and we would love to be able to have an extra $1 million every year, because it could help. And this one time is just not enough to make a substantial change. And so we thought, as a board and as a community, being able to provide 35 units forever is worth a lot. And I would say right now it's looking like the town of Breck is subsidizing about $39 million for this. So,
and that looks like water, roads, that infrastructure, right, as well as the construction.
Yeah, and I think the other big piece of this, which you had alluded to, they can go on the website to see this, but we had a study that was done, and then we've had further studies or more information to confirm that information was correct, that really our population, we do have people coming and going, and we have a transient community, but really our population of students is sort of plateaued. We will have ups and downs here and there, but unless we build, like, let's say, an Amazon plant, we are not going to see this huge influx of, hundreds of more students coming into the district. And so, and seeing that on a 10-year level and knowing that that's really the trend of where we're at, we still have the land, and you're right, Consuelo, we really wanted to make sure, by having more than one appraisal, we wanted to make sure that we were doing the due diligence and the rights by the future of the school district, and also for our taxpayers and for our students, and it just felt like it was a good fit to be able to partner with already a community partner and also do what's best to get and recruit and retain teachers.
Well, really robust, great conversations today. Hopefully people in the audience have learned a lot and can always reach out to us or reach out to the website to learn more or come to a meeting. We love that. Anything that you would love to leave people with today before we sign off?
I would just say thank you for being involved. We really do love people coming to our meetings. It's a really great opportunity. We do have scholarship night next Wednesday, which is April 2nd. Another huge community partner of ours is the Summit Foundation. And we've had a whole bunch of organizations. Students will be getting scholarships, really exciting. And we also have a community project showcase here at the high school on Monday, April 29th, where I believe 9th and maybe 10th graders, I think it's 9th graders, will primarily be working on some really great stuff. So lots of great things going on. We really want to see our community be involved, and we're so excited to be on this journey with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much more to add. I really feel like this is a fun and exciting time of the year. We're coming in, I don't know about the kids think it's fun and exciting because CMAS and some of the other testing start, next week. But I would say it really is exciting to start seeing culmination of work that the students have been working on for the whole year. We start coming into graduation seasons and scholarship nights and end of sports seasons and the start of the last bit of sports seasons. And I just feel like there is a lot of involvement. So again, thank you for people that are participating, whether you have students here, grandchildren here, your community member, your staff. I think we've got a good rest of the year coming forward.
Absolutely.
So thanks.
Thanks for joining us here today. We'll see you next time.